go. All right, open.
This looks new.
Think it's safe?
What is it?
Riley, if you don't eat your dinner, you're not gonna get any dessert.
What do you mean there's no dessert?
That's anger.
That's how it's gonna be, huh? Don't make me give you a bad review.
Riley, here comes an airplane.
Oh, false alarm, people. We've got an airplane. This is movie night.
Hello and welcome to Movie Night, in-depth reviews in less than 5 minutes. I'm your host, Jonathan Paula. Pixar Animation Studios may have begun its existence as an offshoot corporation of Lucasfilm in the late 1970s, but it rose to worldwide prominence when it began producing animated features. In the 20 years since, their 15 full-length movies have scored 15 Academy Awards, almost unanimous critical acclaim, and collectively grossed $10 billion worldwide. Surprisingly though, I've only ever reviewed a couple of Pixar's efforts, so tonight we'll review 5 more of my favorites, beginning with Toy Story. The inaugural release from Pixar earned over 10 times its $30 million budget when it premiered in November of 1995, making it the highest-grossing domestic film of that year. This now classic comedy adventure from director John Lasseter was the first feature-length computer-animated film ever produced. The 81-minute plot follows an anthropomorphized children's cowboy doll, Tom Hanks, who becomes jealous and threatened when a fancy new spaceman action figure, Tim Allen, arrives as his owner's newest toy. The G-rated plot explores the idea that toys are living and thinking beings, who only come alive when the humans aren't looking. It's a simple but brilliant concept all children have likely fantasized about. In the dual leads, Tom and Tim are fantastic, bouncing off one another. Hanks with his affable wit and sarcasm, and Allen with excellent deadpan deliveries of ridiculous dialogue. Allen, unaware that he's a 6-inch action figure, not an actual space commando, Hanks angrily tries to convince him by shouting, "You are a toy!" Their contentious relationship, which slowly transforms into genuine camaraderie, is the emotional bedrock of the film, and surprisingly effective.
I just want you to know that even though you tried to terminate me, revenge is not an idea we promote on my planet.
Oh, well, that's good.
But we're not on my planet, are we?
No.
Okay, come on! You want a piece of me?
Buzz, Lightyear to the rescue.
Stop! Pizza Planet, yeah!
Andy!
A scene where Allen gets drunk at a tea party and has to be snapped back to reality by his companion is positively hilarious, even after watching the movie for the 5th time. The impeccably cast story also features legendary comic Don Rickles as Mr. Potato Head, Jim Varney as a slinky dog, Wallace Shawn as a paranoid dinosaur, and John Ratzenberger, who has had a voice part in all of Pixar's features, as a piggy bank. The Oscar-nominated screenplay, a first for an animated feature, never panders to the audience, nor is it ever condescending, instead balancing an effective mix of humor, hope, and adventure all ages can appreciate. A light and slow-moving score from Randy Newman includes the standout ballad "You've Got a Friend in Me," which is a perfect fit for the warm and wholesome experience. The bright and colorful characters are seamlessly rendered with stunning computer graphics. By focusing on plastic toys that don't require photorealistic hair or skin, Pixar ensured their work would remain extremely impressive for years to come. A revolutionary accomplishment in filmmaking, the work here completely changed cinema in the years that followed, transforming traditional animation into a relic of the past. The massive success of this film also led to 3 sequels, dozens of merchandising tie-ins, a theme park attraction, which is super fun by the way, video games, and lots of imitators. But it's this original outing that gave birth to so much magic. A wonderful fable about discovering your place in the world and dealing with envy. This is a movie that entertains as well as teaches, while never disappointing. Toy Story's groundbreaking visuals bolster its fantastic characters and story. Now let's see what you had to say about it in the YouTube comments. Everyone loves this film, and the fact that it has held up after 2 decades is a testament to its strength. We agree, Toy Story is an amazing film. Now this might be a tough one, but for tonight's poll question, what is your favorite Pixar movie? Leave your response as a comment below. Next up tonight, Finding Nemo. Released on May 30th, 2003, this computer-animated comedy drama film from director Andrew Stanton was a massive hit, with a box office cum 10 times its $94 million budget. Surprisingly, though, it did even better on home media, selling over 40 million copies, making it the best-selling DVD of all time. When a tiny clownfish is captured in the Great Barrier Reef and taken to a fish tank in a dentist's office, his worrisome and nervous father, played by Albert Brooks, sets out on a remarkable journey to bring him home. From there, the 100-minute feature ostensibly becomes a road trip comedy, as Brooks teams up with the perfectly cast Ellen DeGeneres, a forgetful but energetic regal blue tang whose oft-repeated motto of "just keep swimming" symbolizes the perseverance of their improbable quest. Together, their performances, layered with humor, fear, surprise, defeat, and love, truly make this picture a wonderful and heartwarming experience. Reluctant allies initially, they're forced to slowly accept each other's quirks, Brooks' fearful hesitancy, and DeGeneres' reckless optimism. And their respective transformations are quite enjoyable to watch develop.
I want to touch it.
Hey, come back. Come on back here.
I'm gonna get you.
I wanna get you.
I'm gonna get
I'm
you.
gonna swim with you.
I'm gonna get you.
I'm gonna be your best friend. Good feelings gone. I can't see. I don't know where I'm going. The mask.
What mask?
Okay, I can't see a thing.
Oh, gee.
Hey, look, a mask!
Read it.
The G-rated film also boasts some extremely well choreographed action, like when our aquatic heroes upset a large vegetarian shark and attempt to outswim him inside a sunken ship. They meet plenty of interesting and dangerous creatures along their journey, from bodacious turtles surfing an ocean current to hungry seagulls constantly squawking "mine." Meanwhile, Alexander Gold, who plays the titular fish with a gimpy fin, works with his new tank mates to devise an escape from their dentist office prison. There's plenty of recognizable voices in the large supporting cast, from Geoffrey Rush to Allison Janney, but Willem Dafoe is particularly memorable as a gruff and determined Moorish idol with a broken fin of his own. The central lessons he imparts to Nemo about overcoming your disabilities might be a bit on the nose, but for a children's film, they're important reminders that everyone is capable of succeeding if they really try. With some grown-up allusions and jokes peppered throughout the screenplay for good measure, Finding Nemo does an excellent job of appealing to all audiences, something Pixar really knows how to do better than anyone. In fact, the well-written screenplay scored the picture one of its 4 Oscar nominations, and the movie won for Best Animated Feature, the first of 7 for Pixar. Speaking of animation, the visuals here are nothing short of gorgeous. The wavy gleam of the ocean as sunlight pours in from the surface has been recreated with marvelous realism, painting a picturesque backdrop for the expressive and colorful characters on full display in the 16:9 frame. And the 3D version somehow makes the underwater visuals even more impressive. Meanwhile, the score from Thomas Newman is lively and dramatic, whether they're racing between pink jellyfish or taking a deep breath before surfacing above the waves. Although it rather overtly advocates against keeping fish in captivity, the success of this picture ironically led to a dramatic increase in clownfish being adopted as pets, many of whom were not taken care of properly. This is a fun and relatable trip under the ocean worth watching at least twice, but there's some intangible magic missing from it that keeps me from really loving it. But maybe its eventual sequel, Finding Dory, will offer something more. We'll just have to wait and see. Finding Nemo is an imaginative adventure with unforgettable characters, and here's what you had to say in the YouTube comments. Praise was unanimous for the fun characters, but for one reason or another, we both held off on giving it the top score. You rated this a 9, whereas I'm giving it an 8 out of 10. Next up, The Incredibles. This computer-animated superhero comedy film from writer and director Brad Bird was released nationwide on November 5, 2004. The 6th film from Pixar Animation Studios grossed over $630 million worldwide against its $92 million budget and won 2 Academy Awards, including Best Animated Picture. The 115-minute plot follows a family of superheroes who, while trying to live the quiet suburban life, are forced back into action to save the world from a nefarious villain and his giant killer robot. It's a heartwarming and inspiring story about overcoming mediocrity to do something exceptional with your life. When one character reminds another that everyone's special, the defeated response of, which is another way of saying no one is, definitely resonates. Television mainstay Craig T. Nelson stars as the patriarch of the titular family, a washed-up and forgotten hero anxious to return to his life of world-saving adventures. Struggling with his boring suburban responsibilities while hiding his super enthusiasm, his layered performance is the real heart of this picture, marking a real highlight in his illustrious career. Holly Hunter is featured as his headstrong wife Elastigirl, Spencer Fox is their quick-running son, Sarah Vowell is their shy daughter who possesses the gift of invisibility, while Samuel L. Jackson plays the super cool Frozone. Besides a quick scene from the always enjoyable Wallace Shawn, the other two standouts are Jason Lee as the crazed bad guy and director Bird, who voices a spunky fashion designer. The entire ensemble meshed together beautifully, bringing real charm and humanity to their well-developed roles. With allusions to adultery, copious amounts of implied intercourse, and several on-screen deaths, the themes and imagery here is a bit more adult-oriented than past Pixar efforts, but the movie maintains an appropriate PG rating. The Oscar-nominated screenplay occasionally pokes fun at the tropes of its genre, which has Lee proclaiming, after being distracted mid-speech, "You sly dog, you got me monologuing." Elsewhere, the sight of a bickering married couple fighting crime together is such a fantastic novelty, it's hard not to enjoy the fast-paced script. Fortunately, it's supported by some equally entertaining action and visuals. A high-speed chase through a tropical jungle is very reminiscent of the speeder bike sequence in Return of the Jedi, while an earlier airplane evasion moment is particularly suspenseful. The computer animation utilized to create all these dynamic visuals is as impeccable as always, illustrating the exaggerated characteristics of these super characters in inventive ways. Like a fun scene where Hunter must fight off bad guys while their elastic body remains stuck between two doorways. As the entire cast are based on humans though, Pixar was required to develop some new technology to accurately animate the realistic clothing, skins, and hair, but as expected they succeeded with flying colors. Joining the Pixar family for this outing is composer Michael Giacchino, who would go on to score many of their films going forward. His work here, joining big band horns and trumpets, resembles a great James Bond score and is a terrific fit for the larger-than-life characters and situations. With the majority of the plot focusing exclusively on the super family, the scope of the adventure feels a bit too narrow at times, as it isn't until the last 10 minutes when they finally do what they do best and save the world. An action-packed experience with unique characters and plenty of rewatch value, it's no wonder a sequel was recently confirmed. The Incredibles may not be as touching or as clever as previous Pixar films, but its flawless visuals and original story create an exciting time. Let's check out some of your reviews now. Calling it one of the best superhero movies ever, you loved The Incredibles, with your scores averaging to a 9 out of 10. I thought it was pretty great myself. Now, have I mentioned I designed like 25 custom t-shirts that you can buy over at thatreference.com? If you want to be comfortable, look cool, and help support the show, consider picking one up. Link, as always, is in the description below. My fourth review tonight is for WALL-E. This Andrew Stanton sci-fi romantic comedy made over $500 million when it was released in June of 2008, easily besting its large $180 million budget. The computer-animated adventure follows a plucky little robot in the distant future who inadvertently embarks on a journey through space that ends up deciding the fate of all mankind. Inspired by old clips from the musical Hello, Dolly, the titular character is a hopeless romantic, but he's also the only thing with sentience on the entire globe, left behind to clean up a planet-wide mess after humans left the solar system for a better future. Their expositional infomercial that begins the film reminds customers that, we'll clean up the mess while you're away. Despite being a mute, miniature Johnny Five clone, WALL-E remains remarkably expressive. Hunting for trinkets on the abandoned Earth to satisfy his own curiosity, his large eyes and eyebrow flaps help him emote with very human-like feelings and desires. He is perplexed and surprised to discover all sorts of leftover trash, and even mistakes an old bra as large eyewear. Revolutionary sound designer Ben Burtt, best known for his work on the Star Wars films, provides the cutesy electronic voice of the robot, and is excellent with the limited but complicated role. This, combined with his constant need to impress a new robot arrival played by Alyssa Knight, makes the character an absolutely adorable protagonist. Together, their unlikely and irrational relationship carry the G-rated narrative, which is devoid of human dialogue until the halfway point.
A world where roses bloom, and when you speak, angels sing from above. Everyday word seems to turn into love song. When more traditional characters and situations are introduced, the film unfortunately suffers as a result.
Sigourney Weaver is appropriately cast as the voice of the starship's computer. John Ratzenberger's requisite appearance gives him plenty to chew on as an obese human who finally decides to break humanity's cycle of extreme consumerism. Jeff Garlin is great as an inquisitive captain eager to learn more about Earth's past, while Fred Willard is perfect as a smarmy CEO in a short live-action cameo, the first of any Pixar film. The 98-minute feature scored a record-tying 6 Academy Award nominations, winning for Best Animated Feature. As expected, though, the visual effects used to accomplish all of the characters' nuanced traits are impeccable, utilizing believable lighting and film-like depth of field to really sell the realism. But special mention needs to be made for a wonderfully poetic scene where our two robot protagonists fly spiraling circles around each other in a sort of spacewalk ballet duet. Thomas Newman's majestic score lends an emotional depth to the proceedings, while an end credits ballad by Peter Gabriel titled Down to Earth is also rather memorable. A sweet and tender love story set against a cautionary tale regarding gluttony and environmentalism, this interstellar adventure remains one of Pixar's best on every viewing. WALL-E is a beautiful and romantic experience with lovable characters. Now let's check out some of your reviews. Remarkably consistent scores for WALL-E, with everyone agreeing it's an awesome film. And now we look at Pixar's latest release, Inside Out. After a string of less than excellent outings, Pixar is back in a big way with its latest release, which premiered worldwide on June 19, 2015. The Pete Docter computer animated comedy was produced on a budget of $175 million, and even though it's a totally unique property without ties to any existing franchise, I have full confidence it'll make a sizable profit. The comfortably paced 94-minute feature follows the trials and tribulations of 5 entities that represent a little girl's core emotions as she navigates the life-altering turbulence after a cross-country move. The PG-rated story bounces between these parallel narratives, one of an 11-year-old forced to deal with being away from everything she's ever known, and the other thread unravels inside her own mind as her emotions struggle to put back together her crumbling personality. Although the concept of visualizing actual emotions as controllers inside someone's brain is similar to the decades-old Fox sitcom Herman's Head, this family-friendly plot is more exciting and more ambitious. Amy Poehler leads the group as the energetic voice of joy. Her upbeat enthusiasm really brings her colorful blue-haired character to life, constantly reminding her colleagues to think positive. As her direct counterpart, Phyllis Smith is wonderful as the mopey and pessimistic Sadness, who is quick to retort, "I'm positive that you'll get lost." In slightly smaller roles, Bill Hader plays a paranoid interpretation of fear, Mindy Kaling contemptuously represents disgust, while Lewis Black is terrific in the appropriately cast role of anger.
You know what I realized? Riley hasn't had lunch, remember?
Hey, I saw a pizza place down the street. Maybe we could try that.
Pizza sounds delicious.
Yes, pizza.
That's good.
What the heck is
Who
that?
puts broccoli on pizza?
That's it. I'm done.
Congratulations, San Francisco. You've ruined pizza. First the Hawaiians, and now you.
But special mention needs to be made for Richard Kind as the pragmatic imaginary friend. He's smart and resourceful, but keenly aware of his own mortality, which makes his final scene so much more powerful and gut-wrenching. The brightly colored narrative balances these heavier, tear-jerking moments with plenty of laugh-out-loud gags and gimmicks. There's lots of grown-up humor and classic movie references sprinkled throughout as well. One standout sequence during a contentious dinner argument switches perspectives between the controlling emotions of the mom character, played by Diane Lane, and the inattentive father, played by Kyle MacLachlan. The jokes here are based on tired stereotypes, but they're well executed and undeniably hilarious, as the emotions inside MacLachlan are too busy watching sports to respond appropriately. Even though many of the characterizations of our own personalities, represented here by giant mechanical floating islands, are grossly oversimplified, it is extraordinary how well Inside Out manages to visualize the elements that make us who we are with such inventive and fascinating designs. As joy and sadness attempt to return back to headquarters, they inadvertently take us on a full tour of the little girl's psyche, exploring everything from her forgotten memories and subconscious to the dream studio and imagination land. Michael Giacchino continues to have a banner year. After his wonderful work on Jupiter Ascending, Tomorrowland, and Jurassic World, this might be his best work yet, a bubbly and compassionate composition that perfectly underscores all of the goofy hijinks and somber lows. A clever yet approachable film that successfully deconstructs the complexities of emotion with beautiful and inspired animation. This is a fantastic adventure that demands self-reflection of your own memories. The experience should leave audiences of all ages laughing, crying, and wondering about who we really are inside our own minds. Often metaphorical and playful, the movie works because it understands human behavior so effortlessly, with every reaction and outburst ringing true. Although following a slightly older girl may have allowed for an even more interesting set of dilemmas, Inside Out remains a gorgeously realized emotional examination of emotions. Now let's check in with your thoughts. Early feedback on this picture has been extremely positive, with many calling it the best Pixar movie in a decade, and an amazing film. Basically perfect, I have no trouble scoring this a 10 out of 10 as well. Please stop complaining about sequels and reboots and support this movie. Pixar has definitely done it again. Finally tonight, here's a look at what you're saying about other movies currently playing in theaters. If you see a new movie in theaters, tweet your review with the JPMN hashtag. Next week in the season's penultimate episode, I'll be taking a special look at all 5 Terminator films. What began as a futuristic horror film eventually morphed into one of the biggest action franchises of the last 20 years, and the upcoming Genesis seems anxious to reboot the series from within. I'm guessing you've seen at least one of these movies, so please share your opinions by voting in the polls below or by leaving a comment review. If you want to see more of the show, please click subscribe or the related reviews on screen now. Once again, my name is Jonathan Paula. Thank you for watching and listening. Until next time, have a good movie night.